Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacalyn. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacalyn at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm the founder, president, and chief listening officer here at our network. Our show today is The Wise Ones. We're going to be talking all about branding with a branding expert. Joining me first is the star of our show, Mr. Red O'Loughlin. I have to say, he and I started out this morning on food and our emotions, and it's given me a lot of food for thought, so to speak. Let's welcome Mr. Red O'Loughlin, and then we'll bring out our guest. Hello, Red.
Howdy. It's another wonderful day here in paradise.
Absolutely. What do you think of the new background?
It's enchanting, almost like a forest.
Yes. I feel safe here, don't you?
Well, it's a good color contrast for my head. Sometimes there's too white a background, I just blend into the background. So for me, it's a very, very good choice because it works out nicely with that, say, light and dark contrast and colors.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for spending this part of your day with us, and also this morning for Food and Our Emotions. And in addition to the work that you do here, you also recently started as a panelist on our men's show, Wild at Heart Bonfire Talks, Real, Authentic, Uncut. You're also one of our expert presenters on Talking Heads. Your show will be coming up, as you know, right after this one. And you're also an elevated listener, as well as my book coach. And we have our fourth book coming out on Saturday. Very exciting, along with our first single called Listening Lazies, to teach children how to listen at an elevated level. So what are you doing when you're not here, Red?
Well, we're working on your fifth book. Will be due out in 2 weeks, right?
No, I gave us 2 months this time. March 26th, when I turned 60. Yay. Big day. So, no, seriously, please tell our viewers and our listeners about your background, because it's quite impressive. And obviously the show is The Wise Ones, and you are the epitome of the wise ones. And then we'll bring out our guests.
I speak a lot on longevity, age-related issues. And one of the things that I do is a little unique in that area is the fact that I research the body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, you fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating symptoms. And my dad used to have this fear that he was going to die. That was his number one concern in life, when he had a fear. But I say, there's a lot worse fears than that. I mean, what happens if somebody has to change your diaper for the last 5 years of your life? That's not a good quality of life. That's not something that we desire. And so as I'm going through doing what I'm doing, I spend a lot of time, what causes this to happen? What can we do about it? Can I accelerate it? Can I stop it? So that's where I spend most of my time. I write about it. I speak about it, spoke about it yesterday, Chamber of Commerce meeting. Do a lot of things trying to just, that's where my passion lies. That's where I spend most of my time. And as such, I also look for people on this particular show, The Wise Ones, that can add another dimension, particularly in some areas that entrepreneurs can take and use. Now, yesterday we had a topic of event planning, but it was called event curation, because there's just a lot more than just planning. And I'd listened to this lady talk about 4 or 5 years ago, and she came back and talked yesterday. And I was amazed at how much stuff that has going on in the world now, especially post-COVID. And so the other day I was going through LinkedIn and connecting with people, trying to find people for the show. And I came across a gentleman, Robyn, Braley, and I connected with him. We chatted for a little bit, and there was a really good fit, particularly in the area of branding. Some of us brand our individual selves. Some of us brand our shows, our names, our whatever it may happen to be. And I thought with his knowledge, his background, his skills. He's a writer, he's an author, he's done media interviews, he's done all sorts of things. He's been almost 25 years in Rotary. Just a lot of background in this gentleman. I thought, hey, let's bring him on and let's have a really good conversation, get the ins and outs. What do we really need to know about branding, and how can we improve our own personal and business brand? So, Robyn, please join me.
Well,
Hi,
hi,
Robyn.
Red. Hi, Dr. Jacalyn.
Welcome to the show. It's nice to have you.
Well, it's
And
great to be here.
And you notice how cold it is in his background. He's from Canada, and this is wintertime there, but the leaves haven't left the trees yet, so he must be in an okay place.
Hey, we've got a really nice day going for us in Calgary.
Well, we love our friends in Canada. So once again, thank you for being here. And this is such an important topic because I know, having started in business just a couple of years ago, it's very hard to even understand branding, even the word. And then when you think about how important it is, and just to give our viewers and listeners just a small snippet, if you think about your LinkedIn profile, for example, does it look the same as your Instagram or your Facebook or your website, or do you have something different all over the place? I know that's something that I struggled with, and I don't think people are really conscious of what branding is and the importance. So Robyn, I'm going to spotlight you to take us on a little journey there.
Well, your brand is what other people think it is. It doesn't matter what you think, it's what your customers think. Now, there are three different categories for branding. There's the personal brand. Now, I call that personal brand and not career brand because in this age of social media, there is no privacy. So your personal brand extends to both your career and your private life. Of course, your company brand, your organizational brand, that is a different discussion. And of course, then we get to product brands. Now, while your brand is what other people think it is, let's dig deeper. Branding is a process of thematic thinking in which all parts make a contribution to the whole. Now, Dr. Jacalyn, you just talked about that in bringing consistency and predictability to your social media sites. Once customers understand that they can trust you, and they will then move to the relationship element of engagement. Now, social media folks have taken on to this as an explanation of how social media marketing works, but it's been around forever. I know that there are viewers and listeners in different parts of the world. When I go through the model, you're going to say, well, that's how I built my business. That's how I've lived my life. But the funnel, as far as all kinds of branding is concerned, is like, I've gotten to know you a little bit, and I'm beginning to like you. As I learn to like you, I begin to trust you. And as I trust you, I move on to engaging in some way. Now, that could be buying a product, it could be buying a ticket, it might be following you or connecting with you on your social media channels. So once you go through that channel, then branding becomes a little deeper. I like to say that a brand reflects the soul of an organization. In other words, a brand works from the inside out. The brand is the character of you as a person, of your company. Your product has a soul and character that connects with other people, and I'll explain about that later. So when we talk about the soul of an organization or a person as that being their brand, well, that has great influences on a number of different dynamics. For example, it lives out in the way that you treat people, in the product quality, the service that your company offers, the expectations that you build up in your customers, which becomes customer loyalty, because they know every time they book your service or they go to the store and buy your product, there's a prediction and an expectation and a fulfillment of that brand, quality, price, all of those kinds of needs. So once we get past a brand being the soul of an organization, Well, what does logo, what does corporate colors, uh, audio, video, how does that play into a brand? Well, I like to describe that as putting a face on your brand. So your logo, your corporate colors, your images, your icons that you use, the way that you treat people, the way you interact with people, and with any company that has a real strong sales force, you know that there are company policies that guide interactions with customers. So you wrap all of those things together, and now you've put a face on your brand.
Wow, thank you so much, Robyn. You read my mind. I was going to ask about the logo and the website because when I first started out, people were saying, "No, your brand is your website, it's your logo." I said, "No, it's not. I think it's the promise that you make to your customer." But now what I'm hearing is it's what your customer actually thinks your brand is. So that's a new way of looking at it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the rule of thumb is that first impressions are everything. So you brought up online marketing and social media. When someone meets you, like let's say, for example, you're at a business conference and there's 500 people, 1,000 people that are at this conference. And over the 3 days of the conference, you meet, maybe there will be um, 50, 60 people, and that's not really a stretch. You've got that many business cards. What's the first thing that you do when you go back to your home or your office? The first thing you do is start going through your business cards and Googling the person's name and taking a look at their social media. First of all, if you're in business, you usually look at their LinkedIn profile. Then you might check some of the other profiles like YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. Those profiles will give an image and an impression of you. So you want it to be very strong, you want it to carry through, and you want it to be what they would expect after having a wonderful conversation with you at the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. One comment, and then I'll go over to you, Red. In producing this show and on this platform, I am the one who sets up the promotion so that people know who is the guest. And so what I'll do is, if they don't provide a bio, which of course a bio is very helpful, I'll go to the various social media sites. I'll Google, and invariably, many times I see a different picture with a different whatever it is that they do. I'm not even sure if it's the same person, and then I'm kind of stuck. So I'm saying as they're going to be the client, but in this case, I'm the client who trying to support them, and I'm not sure who they are because every platform is something different. So just a word of enlightenment to people who are watching or listening that your profiles really do make a big difference, as does your website. Yeah.
Robyn, I notice that sometimes we as entrepreneurs, we want to get that like, as you talked about a moment ago, and then it develops into a little bit of trust. And with some luck and some other things, we solve a problem for somebody and then they buy products or our services. And that usually, that can take anywhere from literally a day to a year or more. However, there's another segment of, and I hate to use the word industry, but in the context of somebody having a product or service and they're getting money for it, we have that, I'm going to call it a short circuit of a brand in a sense, when con men get into your life and for whatever reason, literally in seconds or minutes, they're able to get that like, that trust, and you're solving a problem for them so much that they're going to just dump money in your lap because they trust you so much. How does that trust really get developed?
Well, it uh, is developed by doing the same things in the same way, and that you are predictable in how you deliver your brand. I definitely relate to what you're saying about the bad guys on social media. And now email is actually a form of social media. Social media, broadly defined, means any platform where you can communicate back and forth. So you can communicate through email. So that is a form of social media. But we've all had the emails from the bank that look suspiciously like our bank. I mean, the bad guys have done a great job, but you have to learn how to discern what some of those images are. Social media sites are really helpful in determining who some of the bad people are that are maybe working as individuals, because they give themselves away. But it is something. And the interesting thing, if we look back, all of our countries had brought in privacy laws. So when they came in, I think most of us thought that privacy meant that we were going to be protected from all of the bad guys on social media and through email. Well, that didn't happen at all. In fact, I think they're worse today than they ever were before. So you do have to be careful. You have to exercise caution. You have to use discernment in identifying who people that are approaching you are and whether they're authentic or not.
I had one the other day that I actually wrote back. Sometimes when things seem too good to believe, you shouldn't. And I left it that way because what I was being told, promised, inferred, whatever it may happen to be, it just, no, this can't be true. And so I wrote it back. I never heard nothing back from them. So I don't know if it's good or bad. But I actually said, sometimes things seem to, and they're promising the world for whatever amount of money. I'm saying, no, this, there's something wrong here.
Absolutely. And one of the keys in looking at social media, for example, I'm very active on Twitter. I'll say it's at Robyn T. Braley is my Twitter handle. We'll slip that in. But I have people that connect with me on a regular basis, a few times a week, that when I first look at their profile, so this goes back to what you were saying, Dr. Jacalyn, I look at their photo. Well, if they have a photo that is obviously doesn't go with the information that they have sent you, or they're trying to connect you with you, right there is a sign. But I do a quick scan of their feed. What is their content like? Content is what drives social media. I'll take a quick scan of their header. A header is a secret tool for strengthening your brand and telling your story in a few seconds. And then I either refuse them or I connect with them. But in those few seconds, that's when I make a judgment of who the person is and whether I want to engage with them.
Sounds like a smart thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. When we think about setting up our business and picking a name and determining who our ultimate customer is and all the things that a business person has to do, when do we start focusing on the branding? After we open the business, before we open the business, during the opening?
When you walk into the office of a prospect, your branding is started. So how you walk in, how you greet them, the sound of your voice, whether you command the room or whether you are taking a soft approach until you get to know the client. How do you preamble your meeting? What kinds of things do you talk about? I do quite a bit of work on networking. And one of the things that I advise is that when you go into a conference reception, is you go in with about 5 topics that you've checked out that morning. Like if the city has a sports team, your favorite team, what did they do last night? Did they win? Did they lose? That's a starting point for you. What's going on in the community? What's going on in business? So when you go into that meeting, right away, you are working towards starting a relationship with that client. So that's where a brand starts. Red and I both live in the center of very active and worldwide oil and gas industries. And we both know companies that are worth many, many millions today that started with a guy who carried his product from place to place in the back of his half-ton and started the business, grew the business, developed trust. People engaged with him, and then they got to the point where they started putting a face on their brand. So, but to begin with, think of your brand. What is it? What's the message that you want to give? What's the story that you want to tell?
Thank you, Robyn. And when we think about the client, how important the client is, and building that trust and bringing value, does that mean always saying yes?
That's a layered question as far as the answer is concerned. No is a real word, and you don't always have to say yes. And let's set up a scenario that you've cold called a client, you've set a meeting, you go into the meeting, you make a great impression on that client as far as starting the relationship, starting the conversation. You've got all of your sales model in place. You ask an opening question, then you ask open and close questions as you gather information to determine what their needs are. But then there comes the point in the meeting where you identify that their need is something that you actually don't do. So at that point, what I have done is I've introduced them to someone that I know and trust who can deliver that need. But sometimes there might be a need that is close to what I do. And with a little bit of research and investigation, I will be able to take that on. And I have developed areas of expertise based on knowing a little bit about an area and then developing the skills and the strategies and the understanding of developing that quality experience.
Thank you. Red?
Well, Dr. Jacalyn, we're just about halfway through the segment. Is now a good time for a commercial break?
Absolutely. Thank you. We're going to take a break, and we're going to hear from a couple of our sponsors, starting off with the lovely Diane Floyd-Bames. So please do stay with us, and we'll be back with more of Robyn.
Kapayapaan, kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
Diane Floyd-Bames' A Song of Peace tells the story of a young lad named Tommy whose fervent wish for peace on earth touches the hearts of his friends and family, spreads to his community, and eventually unites the whole world around making his dream of peace a reality for everyone. Sit down with the children in your life and share Tommy's amazing story of love and hope. Sing your own song of peace and invite the children to join you. Tommy's tale is more than just a story. It's a movement, and everyone's warmly welcome to take part.
Kapayapaan, kapayapaan, kapayapaan.
You'll find A Song of Peace, along with many other wonderful learning and enriching opportunities for children of all ages, at DianeFloydBame.com.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.
And welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is The Wise Ones, and we're talking about branding. And I thought this would be a great time to just ask you to hold in your memory the intro and outro that you've been watching here today, because we have a brand new one coming out for our first year anniversary show, which is actually on Sunday. And we will be archiving the intro and outro that we've been running for the last year and putting it into the Broadcasting Museum and saying bye-bye. So we have consistent branding. Okay. Our show, as I mentioned, is The Wise Ones. Joining me is the star of our show, Mr. Red O'Laughlin. Hello, Red.
Howdy.
Howdy, good to see you. We're bringing back our special guest, Robyn Braley, and I want you to notice when Robyn joins us how the root of the tree stump goes into ours. Check it out. Let's welcome him back. Hi, Robyn.
Well, hi. It's nice to be back.
Nice to have you back as well. I was thinking to myself, if you're watching our outro that we just ran, you probably are seeing that there's an inconsistency between the branding that you see here for USA Global TV and Radio and what we just showed, right?
Yes, but I don't have a problem with that, because if you're starting out, you might have a problem. But if you've been in business, developing your career for any length of time, you know that branding is a process, and what you're going through is a process.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for giving grace on that. So I'd love to talk a little bit also about, and I don't know if we can tie this into branding because that is the topic, but about your abilities as someone who's able to read body language.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us more about that. It sounds exciting and a little scary too.
Well, my adult children who are in their 30s roll their eyes when this is brought up. But I am known in Canada as a body language expert. So they say, Dad, look in the mirror, look at your own body language. But whenever there's an election in Canada, now, of course, our government is set up different than it is in the United States. If you are in other parts of the British Commonwealth, our governments are somewhat the same. So every time there's an election, of course, there are debates. And we have a number of different parties, depending on the country. In our country, we have 5 different parties that are running to form the next government. And then you have the government, you have the opposition, and then you have some of the smaller parties. So when we have debates, the way that it's done in Canada is that the podiums are set up in a bit of an arc, sort of a semicircle, but not quite. What that does is it allows the leaders to look at each other and to be able to more fully express themselves than you can if you're at podiums that are in a straight line. So body language is a series of indicators that include eye contact, facial expressions, hand gestures, positioning, and your tone of voice. Now, not every body language expert includes all of those, but I feel that your messaging and the story that you're trying to get across begins, as I said earlier in the program, when you walk into the room and how you interact with different people. But it's really quite fascinating when the leaders are on their talking points, of course, they're smooth, they're rehearsed, they're very professional. They look like the guy that you want to lead your country. But then when they get to the Q&A part or the responses, that's where the gloves come off, and some do better in a spontaneous situation and others don't. But body language is, I believe, very important in developing particularly your personal brand.
Great answer. Thank you very much. We had a guest on another show, and she is a face reader. And she said that basically, besides the little micro movements that we have, how your nose is structured and where your eyes are placed can give some insights to, I don't know this, to what someone's thinking. I'm not sure what they give insights to, but about your background and about how you carry yourself. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm not really familiar with that theory. I think that you can get into some areas where you may not want to go because you get into beauty and not beauty. And I've known some people that had some kind of a physical situation with their face, and so when they first walked into a room, that's what you looked at right away. But they acquired the skills of immediately crossing that barrier, and you didn't think about that anymore. You thought about what a warm, interesting person that this person is. So I'm not really sure about that theory, but facial expressions are definitely a big part of body language. Eye contact is really important. Now, the very first television debate was between Richard Nixon and JFK. Richard Nixon was perspiring. His eyes were shifting all over the place during his presentation, as well as during questions from JFK. He kept wiping his brow because he was perspiring profusely, and he stuttered and stammered a lot. Now, the story after that was that JFK, who looked cool, collected, the guy that you'd want to have as your friend, and so you'd probably vote for this guy. The story was that because it was the first debate, that his handlers in that election really didn't know too much about how to go about preparing. So he'd been out golfing that day, and the sun had given him a bit of a rosy color to his face and a bit of a tan, and he sat comfortably and was actively listening when Richard Nixon was talking. And Richard Nixon apparently had the flu that day, and he really was ill, which explained about his perspiring and some of his movements. He wasn't in top form. So that's one of the first television debates that is in TV debate history.
Robyn, one of the things that I've noticed over time, particularly whether it's a debate or not, that people know, as you say, they're very well versed in whatever. However, sometimes when they're off the cuff and a question's asked and it's they repeat. And you expect a lot of these people, because they've been in this business 20, 30, 40 years, that they would be accomplished speakers, that they would know their material down pat. Yet some of them can't speak well off the cuff. And I just find that to be amazing in public office nowadays. I've been in Toastmasters 15 years over that. And it's one of those things that we try to prepare for that ad hoc response to something, so that you have a chance to think in your mind and take a 15-minute topic and organize it nicely into a 2 or 3 minute response, rather than take that 2 or 3 minute response and cram it into 25 minutes. That doesn't make sense. So it just amazes me that some people can speak so well sometimes, and you put them in a little bit different stress, and they go to pieces from a speaking perspective.
I have a client that the two owners started in the back of the factory sweeping floors, and then they grew to the point where they were machine operators, then there were project managers, then the owner decided to retire, didn't have any family, so he arranged for them to buy the company. It's a glazing company, so they do commercial glass systems. And of course, Calgary has been in the process of being built for many decades, and it's a very dynamic city with the latest designs, and really puts demands on building product suppliers. Well, they've built the company into a firm that before the year before COVID, they earned over $800 million in revenue, and they have become the dominant force. Well, one of those partners can't speak to save himself. And if I told you that there was a multi-millionaire in a room of 50 people, he would be the last one that you would choose. His partner was a smooth talking, really in control kind of guy. He was the PR guy. He started as the president of the Glazing Association in the province of Alberta, and then he went on to become the president of the National Glazing Association. But they were a great partnership, and they knew their roles, they knew what they were comfortable with, and they did it very well. Red, if I can give you an example from my public speaking tutorial, one of the tricks that I've learned that's helped a lot of people is to listen to public radio, your news anchor on your 6 o'clock news on television, or an information or news formatted radio station. Now, follow along with the way the host is speaking. Now, you're not interested at all in saying exactly what they're saying, but what I do encourage people to note is the delivery rate. Most of them are speaking much slower than it sounds like they're talking when you're just listening to them and not looking for that kind of thing. Many people speak too fast and too rapidly, and same thing with politicians. When you are being interviewed on TV and the radio, or speaking before an audience, slow your speech down. Develop a cadence and a rhythm and a delivery that allows people to hear what you're saying. That little trick also helps people to address the ums and the ahs, and as I said before, and all of those kinds of speech elements.
We notice that a lot of people say the ah and they have no idea, or the they don't even realize it's coming out of their mouth. And so we ring a bell, and maybe ding, ding, ding. All of a sudden they get the connection where they're actually saying something, but their mind is, they're in between thoughts, but the word ah or whatever comes out. And once they're aware that there actually is something emanating from their mouth, they now understand it. That seems to be one of the biggest improvements in people have that ability to shut off the ah or the is the fact that they recognize they're saying it. I mean, even accomplished speakers, for whatever reason, sometimes we just have a period, we say something and we don't realize we're saying it because our mind is focused on the next part, probably because you're right. We are thinking too fast and we want to get that out right now, as opposed to let's just take our time and we'll get the answer that we want to give them. And it's interesting in that speaking arena, how many things can go wrong, and yet we have the ability to overcome each one of them with a little bit of time.
Here's a trick, Red, that many years ago, I was a high school drama teacher, and I learned this trick then in doing actor coaching and public speaking coaching, and that is the power of the pause. If you're speaking to an audience and you have the situation that you just described come up, where your mind has gone blank, rather than saying, and just pause. Now you think the pause is forever, but it's really not to the listener. Let me demonstrate it this way. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. Now I can totally change that just with moving a pause around. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. So in that, I've demonstrated it. That gives you a few seconds to bring to mind what the next part is.
Well, Robyn, you certainly have a wealth of information. You communicated extremely well. And I'm sure there's many other shows here on the USA Global TV and Radio Network that we would love to have you on. But we're getting to the end of this program. What value can you offer people? What do you have out there that is of immense interest? And how can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me through my social media feeds. Twitter is at Robyn T. Braley. So you can follow me there and then would be able to direct message each other. Mention that you saw me on this show. You can also go to my branded website. Now, I have written about 65 or 70 blog posts about branding, and I go into the depth of each subject, and there's topics like social media. There is probably about 8 or 9 that are specifically about branding and expanding on things like we've talked about here. There's public speaking tips, and there's some lifestyle kinds of posts as well.
Okay, so Robyn is spelled R-O-B-Y-N.
R-O-B-Y-N.
Braley, B-R-A-L-E-Y. And your website is unimarkcreative.com. Is that correct?
That's my company website, and you can certainly contact me through that. But you can also contact me through my blog site, which is Branded with Robyn. brandedwithrobyn.com.
So brand it.
Robyn, can you please drop it into the chat, and then we'll put it into the comments for people to see? That would be great.
Yeah, our video audience can see it, but sometimes we want to make sure our radio stations have the ability that people understand exactly what we're saying.
Can I do that after the show?
Sure, absolutely. Yes, fantastic. Robyn, as Red mentioned, we'd love to have you on some of our other shows, especially the Business Talk Show. So we will be reaching out to you to see what will work for you.
Hey, that would be great. And if I can just mention, one of my experiences going back into my checkered past is that I was the manager of sponsorship for an educational television network that we had in Alberta, which is like PBS. And sponsorship was a really big part that allowed us to do the things that we did. And so I want to encourage all of the listeners and viewers, the sponsors that ran their messages in the middle of today's show, get in contact with them. You may or may not need their product. You might. If you do, that's awesome. But at least send them an email saying, thank you for sponsoring this program. And I really appreciate it. And it's really helped me. And that will do wonders as far as a sponsor relationship with this show.
Excellent point. Wow. Thank you so much. That's the first. Nobody's ever said that before. So
very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. All right, Robyn, we'll see you again sometime in the near future. Until then, take good care, and thanks for a great show.
Well, really thank you very much. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robyn.
Bye for now.
All right.
Bye. And Red, thank you so much for bringing Robyn to the platform. I really appreciate it. Your show is coming up, Talking Heads. I'm going to spotlight you. Tell people what they can expect to learn today.
We're on the topic of toxins. It's a 6-week plan. It's planned for 6 weeks. We're on week number 2 right now. I did a high overview last week. We're going to dive down a little bit deeper, get into actually some of the compounds that are out there and what they can do. But we are bombarded literally with just about everything that we touch, breathe, taste has some association with a synthetic chemical that might possibly bring harm to our bodies. And so we're going to talk in some detail today about toxins, what they are, what they do, how does our bodies function with them, how can we're not quite there to how we're going to cleanse everything. Just drinking water and fasting, a few other things will get rid of a lot of them because the body just naturally processes them. But we're going to save that for another day. But that's what the Talking Heads program is about today. It's phase 2 out of 6 phases on toxins.
All right. I'm looking forward to learning even more. In fact, this morning after we had Food and Our Emotions, I actually put that product in my cart for Amazon. What is that again? Tutor? No. Truck?
Tudca, Tudca. It's an interesting chemical, but I'm going to say it's actually a little difficult even for me on my chemical pronunciations because of the way it's a toral. Anyway, that's why I just stay with Tudca because it's a whole lot easier. Choline, that's an easy one. But Tudca, because of the R's and the roll around things in there, you get a and it almost sounds like, even when I listen to it, when I play a lot of the chemicals I name, I'll listen to how they're pronounced just so I make sure I get the accent in the right place. I know what they are, but sometimes the accent is a little, tocopherols versus, something else might have a slightly different sound. But anyway, I try to make sure that when I pronounce a particular chemical name, that it's the approved version of that name. And it's just one of those things that I love the chemicals. I want to make sure I'm saying them right.
I appreciate that. Well, it's in my cart, so I'm looking forward to receiving it. And I'll let you get over to the other studio. But first, how do people get in touch with you, and who would you like to contact you?
I speak often on health and wellness, primarily in the area of longevity, age-related issues. I write a lot almost every day. I have nearly 1,000 articles on LinkedIn. I have about 1,500 blogs on my website. So I write, I speak, I help authors get their books written. I help authors get their books published. But for the things to get in touch with me, basically go to my website, redolaughlin.com. That's red, color RED, O'Laughlin, OLAUGHLIN. So it's red, RED, OLAUGHLIN.com. And I have all my contact information there, my phone number, my email. My two preferred methods is voice, just call me on the phone, or email. Those are the two that I respond to the fastest.
All right. Thank you so much, Red. I look forward to seeing you in the other studio.
I shall run over there right now, and I'll be ready with bells on when we're ready to go. So I'll be there in just a couple minutes. Take care.
All right. Thanks again. Bye. And for those of you who would like to contact Robyn, here is the other website, Brand It with Robyn. Let me spell that for you. It's brand, BrandItWithRobyn.com. Thank you so much. All right, just a couple of quick announcements. If you're just joining us for the first time today, if you've already been here, you've probably heard this, but it's worth repeating, I think. So we have our big anniversary show coming up on Sunday, our first year anniversary. It's very exciting. We will be live streaming for 5 hours with people from around the world who have been on our program in 2022, and they will have 15 minutes each to promote themselves, to share with our audiences the value that they can bring, that they will bring to people who do reach out to them. So join us for that. It starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is also 4 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, 5 p.m. Central European Time. And wherever it is you're used to watching our shows, just go there and you will be able to find us. The other announcement is that this weekend is our big book launch party, our second book in the children's series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. The new book is on the right. It's called Lady Ella's ABCs of Listening, and actually includes not only lessons for children and their families to learn about how to listen at an elevated level, but it includes a poem called Listening Lazies and a new single called Listening Lazy. So the book actually includes the sheet music for the song. All the animals that you see on both of these book covers represent real people who took the Power of Listening course that I created and facilitated, and they are now on our elevated listening team. So if you would like to learn how to listen at an elevated level, if you would like to teach your children or children in your family How to Listen at an Elevated Level, please do go over to Amazon and pick up a copy of our book. The first one on the left is available in ebook, paperback, as well as hardback. And the book on the right, Lady Ella's ABCs of Listening, is available right now in ebook. And on Saturday, it'll be available in paperback and hardback to follow. Thank you again. We are signing off for now, and we'll be right back with Red O'Loughlin and his Talking Heads episode on toxins. Bye for now.